I am Natallie Young. I am a senior account manager with RunSignup, and today we're going to be talking about participant management, and we'll do a quick overview of the options you can use in general, but also to help you clean up the mess of 2020. And it will help streamline your workflow for future events. So let's go ahead and get started. Quick review of the agenda. So we'll be going over the basics of participant management and which features would be good to use in 2021 to clean up 2020. We'll talk through refunds, how to allow self-serve refunds. Very few races actually enable that, but it's important in 2021 to take the time to customize your refund policy. And then we'll talk through the self-serve options, go through bulk options for those of you who still have some cleanup to do on the back end, a review of the postpone and cancellation tool, and then talk through deferrals. So here we go. All right, participant management in 2021 and the challenges that we're seeing post-pandemic. So we're seeing a variety across all of the races that we work with. There was a lot of different scenarios that happened, especially for races that were scheduled for last March, April, and May. Some races were canceled with participants who were already registered, races that were postponed, races that gave their participants a variety of options like deferrals, refunds, transfers to another race, or switching to virtual. And then we're starting to see a few races, or more than a few, that had to cancel or postpone more than one time. So what do we do about that? The goals for 2021 when it comes to participant management is making sure that race directors are having clear communication with their participants about the status of their registration. So if you told them they could defer or that they would automatically be switched to the race on the new date, just making sure that you're using the email marketing tools to communicate with your participants about the status and the new date, and just staying in communication. We'll go through the bulk actions you can take to save yourself time, self-serve actions that you can turn on to make things easier for your registrants, and then how you can ensure all participants end up with the right solution to whatever option they selected for 2020. And then having transparent policies around cancellations and refunds moving forward. So we'll start with refunds. In order to issue refunds in RunSignup, you must have funds in the refund reserve. So you can view your refund reserve under participant management and chargeback refund reserve. You can issue bulk refunds up to 1,000 at a time. You can paste in the registration IDs and issue full refunds, refunds without the processing fee, or actually use the registration ID colon and then the amount of the refund. But that will save you a tremendous amount of time if you have a lot of refunds to issue. You can issue refunds one by one. In April of 2020, we removed our $1 refund fee that RunSignup charged. So now it's free to issue refunds. We don't charge that fee anymore. You aren't able to issue refunds if the original registration is older than a year. But if you have those situations come up, RunSignup admins can issue those refunds for you. So if you have something like that that still needs to be handled, go ahead and reach out to your account manager and we'll be able to work with you on the next steps. And then going forward, it's really important to set up a refund policy. I'd say when the pandemic hit in March and April, about 99.5% of races didn't have any type of refund policy set up or customized or clearly displayed. So you can add that refund policy under participants, participant management, refunds and refund policy, which is the screenshot on this page. And you can just have the refund policy display. It will display on the cart page so they can view it. You can add a checkbox, which would force them to agree to that policy, or initials, which would also force them to agree to the policy, but they'd have to enter their initials. So, and we'll just do a quick overview of the self-serve participant management options. So one thing to keep in mind, especially if you're working through the cleanup of a postponed or canceled race from 2020, most registrations for postponed races originally processed 12 to 18 months ago. So a lot of participants have had information that has changed since their original registration was completed. Maybe that they got married, or they moved, or they lost weight, or they gained weight, so they need a different shirt size, or a lot of things will need to be updated. So you can enable the participant management options to make it easy for registrants to update that information on their own. Otherwise, they'll be emailing you to make those changes for them. And then all of our participant management options are really flexible, so you can pick and choose which features you want to enable and which things you want to allow participants to edit. So some of the examples are participant info, which would be first, last, email, date of birth, age, and address. So you can pick and choose which of those fields you want participants to be able to edit. They'd be able to do that directly in their profile by managing their registration. Event transfers. So you can allow people to transfer from one event to another. This will become important in 2021 and in the future when people, maybe they're out of shape, so they want to downgrade, or all they've been doing is training, so they want to switch to the longer distance. But you can get really nitty gritty with the settings here and charge specific fees for transferring from the 5K to the 10K or the 5K to the half. And then you can actually prohibit transfers between specific events. So really flexible there. We also have race transfers. So if you have multiple races that you manage, you can allow your participants to transfer from race A to race B, either for a fee or make it free. Those settings are up to you. Next is participant transfers. This used to be called bib exchanges, but a couple months ago we changed what it's called in the menu, which gets me every time. Still not used to it yet. But participant transfers are bib exchanges, transferring your bib from one person to another. So you have the option to transfer for a refund or transfer as a gift. And you can customize those transfer fees. Deferrals, which we'll be covering in depth in a few slides, allowing registrants to defer their registration to next year's race. And then giveaway management, allowing people to change their shirt size, or if you have another giveaway option that's not a shirt, that's where they would manage it. And add-on management is post-registration add-on purchases. So allowing people to go back in and purchase merchandise after they've registered. And then just real quick, question management. This is where most races have their emergency contact information set up, emergency contact name and phone number. So I highly recommend turning this on. Again, a lot of those things will change. Group team management, corral management. So this one's important, especially as we see different cities impose different restrictions or remove them or have different guidelines. If you're using corrals for your race or collecting estimated finish time, you can turn on corral management, and that will allow registrants to change their time or change their corral. And then shipping address management for hybrid races or virtual races or races where you're selling the bib mailing option during registration. A lot of people have moved in the last 12 to 18 months, so you can turn on this setting and allow them to update their shipping address. I just recommend turning it back off once it's time to actually mail out bibs or virtual packages and things like that. All right, bulk options. We added quite a few bulk tools during the pandemic, just because we are seeing so many actions taken on registrations. Bulk refunds, you can refund up to 1,000 people at a time, like we just covered. Bulk deletions, that's just uploading a CSV file or pasting in registration IDs and mass deleting people from a race. Bulk race and event transfers, so transferring people in bulk to another race or switching them to another event in your race. With that option, you can do up to 250 at a time. And bulk deferrals and bulk deferral fee refunds. All right, our postponement and cancellation tool in the participant decision report. So last year for races that were canceled or postponed, a lot of races turned on this tool. It was a pop-up that lets people know that the race was canceled or postponed. And if as a race you gave your participants options, this is where they would select them. So you can go to race, postpone and cancel options, participant decision report, and this is where you can review the past decisions. You can search and download options. And the one thing I like to point out about this tool, it's just a reminder that this feature is just a data collection tool. This is where people could select if they wanted a refund or if they wanted a deferral. This is just a report. So for all of those selections, you still need to take actions on all of those registrations. And if you already renewed your race, you can still view this report and the answers to the report. On the top of the page, there will be a change year, the orange drop-down button, and you can switch from one year to another to review those decisions. Okay, deferrals. So the thing that is coming up for me the most as an account manager is, how do I view a report of my deferrals and what do I do with them? So we're going to talk through managing deferred registrations. We saved most of the time for the presentation to talk through this. You can view your deferral report by going in your race dashboard to reports, not registered, deferred registrations. And this will give you a full list of your deferrals for each race year. And it's going to include all the basic information that's tied to that deferred registration. And then what do you do with those deferred registrations now that you have a report? So we have a few different options. Some we recommend more than others. So I'm going to start with importing, then cover coupon codes, then cover reserved entry links, and then cover our referred or preferred method of managing deferrals, which is the defer via race transfer tool. So let's get started. All right, importing or just transferring your deferred registrations. So this is not our preferred method of managing deferrals. I just want to say that up front. I am starting with this option, but please stick with me to the end so you can see what we actually recommend. You can do this option. The benefit of it is that your registrants, your deferred registrants, you can import them into the current year race. And your participants won't have to do anything on their end. They won't have to complete any actions. You're just importing them, you're all set. But the downside of managing your deferrals this way is traditionally less than 60% of your deferred registrants will ever actually come back and claim a deferral. A lot of people, they chose that option last year. They just wanted to know that they still had a registration that they could use in the future if they wanted to, but they'll never actually come back and do anything with it. So if you are a race that has a cap and you have course limits, you're actually taking up room in your race or paying for shirts that participants might not ever show up and redeem. You also won't have a signed waiver for the new event. So you would need to think through that process and plan to collect waivers on site. And then you'll have a lot of outdated information for these participants, whether it's shirt sizes, emergency contact information, finishing times, things like that. So if you decide to do bulk transfers or just import people into the race, you can do that by going to your race dashboard, choosing participants import or participant management and bulk race and event transfers. So the next option is giving people coupon codes. So you can create unique coupon codes for your deferred registrants. Those can be uploaded in bulk under financial pricing coupons, and then you could use a custom email marketing list to email your deferred registrants their unique coupon code. The benefit of doing it this way is participants will be forced to re-register, sign a new waiver, update their contact information, and then again, not everyone will choose to complete their deferral. So it's going to save you space in the race and money compared to importing. And then the downside to this method is that creating the codes in the email will take a little bit of time. And then participants might misplace the email or delete it. So there would be some customer service if people needed help looking up their coupon code and things like that. The next option is single-use reserved entry links. You can take a list of your deferred registrations and import them into that single-use reserved entry tab. You would just need first name, last name, and email address. You can set cutoff dates and special pricing. And then once you upload that list, registrants will receive an email with their unique link to register. A few things to note about single-use reserved entries is that emails are sent out immediately when you upload the list. So definitely test it first. Let's say you have 500 deferrals that you're uploading reserved entry links for. If you make a mistake with the settings, they can't be edited in bulk. So you'll have to update those one by one, just something to keep in mind. Again, that's why it's important to test first. And then reserved entry links are actually not specific to the person they are sent to. So Natallie Young could receive a reserved entry link, and I could forward that email to Matt and he would be able to register. So something to keep in mind with reserved entry links. And then reserved entry links. So multiple use reserved entry links that are tied to a loyalty list. So this is my second favorite feature of all of 2020. It's really great. You can use it for deferrals and a variety of things. You can create a loyalty list of your deferred registrants with their first name, last name, email, and date of birth, and then create a multi-use reserved entry link. And then you can assign that loyalty list to the reserved entry link. So this means that only people on that list will be able to register through that multi-use reserved entry link. It's easier to set up because it's just one link. You're making sure that only specific people can register through that link. And then if you make any mistakes or you need to edit it or change the pricing or change the cutoff date, it's easy to do that. So, and then the last, notes about multi-use reserved entry links. So unlike single-use reserved entry links, there isn't an automated email that goes out. So just make sure that you're taking that link and emailing it out to your deferred registrants. And then these things I already covered. Easy to update, easy to report on, and all right. And then my favorite feature of 2020, I know it's Matt's favorite feature too, is our defer via race transfer feature. So this allows you to customize the deferral claiming settings for previous events. You can set the cutoff date to any date that you want. You could actually set this to a date in 2022, 2023, or even further out in the future. That would allow your deferred registrants to claim their deferral up to that date in the future. That's actually helpful to, and it's a great way to spread out your deferred revenue so you're not taking as big of a hit in one year. And then you can choose the same race or other races. So you can allow them to claim their deferral in the same race for the next year or a future year, or claim their deferral into any other races that you manage. So it gives your participants more flexibility and some additional options when it's actually time to claim their deferral. There's a few different deferral credit methods. You can give them a credit for the amount they paid for their registration, and you can choose if you want to include the add-on credits with that or not. You can choose new event is always free. So I don't care what event you were registered for last year. I just want you to be able to register for one of the events this year. Or you can set a creditable amount based on the previous event. So I just want anyone who deferred from the 5K to get $35 to use for this year's race. I don't care how they use it or when they use it. I just want to give them $35 and they can choose. All right, and then as on the participants' end, they can claim their deferral and complete the deferral process directly from their profile. So this is the main profile tab, and we have this deferral tab button. So for any deferred registrations that they have, they can come here and click the complete deferral link. That will take them into the registration process, and they can choose based on the settings that you have. The deferral report, we expanded on this quite a bit over the past few months, and you can actually view which participants have claimed the deferral, and it shows you which race they transferred into. The Defer via Race Transfer tool, it just gives your participants and you as the race director so much more flexibility. And it's a set and forget feature. So you don't have to do the manual work of importing or creating the coupon codes or importing the single-use reserved entries. You set this up, it's easier for your participants, it's easier for you. And then just the note that registration has to be open. So in order for someone to claim their deferral and register for next year's event or another race, registration has to actually be open for that event. And that is our participant management presentation.
So Natalie, you did such a great job explaining everything. There are actually no questions.
Okay.
I'm going to see if anything's coming in, but so far, no. We did have a comment, though, that the multi-use reserved entries have been very useful for us with using the loyalty list.
Yes, and we can all thank Eric Cohn for that recommendation, because that was his idea, and it's genius. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining. And
yeah.
Johanna, what's up next?
Thanks, Natalie. Matt's back up next. He's going to talk about communicating with your participants and how to save yourself time by doing that well.
Okay, thanks.